Hey, are you looking to play guitar but you don't know where to start with purchasing your first guitar? Now you may be asking yourself, well, which guitar do I even get? Where do I start? Well, first off, realistically, you're probably gonna want between like $200 and $400, and that's just kind of buying base entry level things. Because you actually need to pick up the guitar and you're gonna need an amp. But where I would begin, I would say look at your favorite artist and see what type of guitar they are playing. You can Google it and you can see the style. Now, you may not be able to get the signature model because obviously it's going to cost thousands of dollars, but most likely that same guitar brand is going to have more of an entry-level guitar line, which should have something similar, though the quality isn't going to be the same or all the bells and whistles. You could still get into that style of guitar, or you can look at another company because you'll find that a lot of guitar companies have very similar shaped guitars. So first, let's kind of go into the configuration of the guitar just in general though. Because you're going to find out that a lot of things are kind of the same minus the body shape. So for example here, right, this guitar here is in an HSS configuration. So what that means is I have a humbucker and then two single coils. So usually if you see these are single coils. Something that looks like this is going to be called a humbucker, which is two single coils kind of wired into one that basically gets rid of hum of what single coils had back in the day. So I think you can get some single coils that obviously are like noiseless that kind of fix that issue now, but that's kind of what you're looking at. So usually the three most popular types of guitars, you're going to pretty much have like the Stratocaster that has three single coils. And then you're going to have something like this, HSS, that has the humbucker two single coils. And then you're going to have really the ones that have the two humbuckers. So with a lot of the single coil stuff, a lot of the times they're more twangy, they say. It's used for more country and pop. And then when you start getting into like the HSSs and the HH, which are, have the humbuckers in it, normally those start getting into your hard rock, your metal. But once you actually start getting into guitars, you're going to learn a lot of things come from like the equipment that you use, like the amp, your pedal board, your multi-effects processor. That's where a lot of that sound's going to come from. So is it important on what you get for your pickup configuration? Well, I think it influences it for sure, but you can throw enough gain and distortion at something and you can probably make anything sound just like anything else. And then you got to remember one thing too, with these pickups, usually each guitar company is going to have their own brand they throw into it. You're going to find there's more third-party type pickups that some companies just throw in their guitars that they make too. Seymour Duncan, DiMarzio's. So like I said, you're going to find that a lot of guitars are going to be set up in probably those three configurations. So if you have a specific sound you're going for, you usually can just go, okay, well that has two humbuckers in it. Cool, I want to play more hard rock metal. Then you're going to be looking for those types of things. And then again, you can swap out your pickups in your guitar too. So if I wanted to swap out this humbucker to get a more high gain metal sound, I could. Or I could put something that has less gain in it that sounds more vintage if I wanted to. So it kind of comes down to a combination of your pickup configuration and then basically what you're playing out of, your amp, your pedals. Then another thing that's going to be out there that's going to confuse a lot of people too is going to be like the wood type, Is it an alder body, a mahogany body? Do you have a rosewood fingerboard? Do you have this? Do you have that? And again, that's going to come down to personal preference in the end. If you're buying a more entry-level guitar, your options are probably going to be limited. Because obviously I think the gold standard in guitars, American-made guitars, are number one. I would personally rank Japanese guitars as number two, competing with number one, because build quality is really great with those guitars. And then you're going to have places like Mexico, China, Korea, and they all have kind of varying quality. It really depends. But overall, for the most part, the guitars are going to be built fairly well if you stick kind of to a name brand. And then something to also be aware of too, guitar companies may own multiple brands of guitar. So for example, Fender owns Charvel, Jackson, Squier, Gretsch. Gibson has Epiphone, Kramer. But personally for me, if I was going in to buy a guitar, realistically, if I'm sticking in that $200 to $400 price range, it's probably going to be a Squier made by Fender or an Epiphone made by Gibson. And I like Ibanez guitars too, so they also have some great entry-level ones as well you could pick up. But if your budget was a little bit more, you could get a used Fender Player Series guitar, which is like their entry-level Mexican-made guitar, Usually get those for about 350 to 500 depending on the one. Or you could probably even get a Gibson Studio or Tribute used anywhere between probably like 7 and 900. But when you start getting those prices, then your options really start to open up. You can buy so many different guitars, and buying used is great. And that kind of brings us into our next point though. What I'd really recommend is going into a guitar store, local guitar store if possible, only because they usually give you a little more care. Basically, you need to go in and play the guitars. That's going to be huge to even know what you want, because you're going to start getting into things like neck profiles, right? Some are going to be bulkier, some are going to be less bulky. Some are going to have a compound radius where they go from small to large. And it's really going to depend on what you're looking to do. So you're going to want to go in and actually take a look and play and get some guidance. And that's where kind of having an idea, from the first point of like, what type of guitar do I want? Oh, well, I see this artist is using this. What in this price range kind of matches that? And when you go in, most stores, right, they're going to have a ton of used guitars. So you may be able to pick up a sweet deal on that. So now if your only option is to buy online, this next part is probably going to be what you really want to pay attention to. This is where I kind of got burnt when I first got back into, buying guitars again. You're going to want to ask about the setup of the guitar. So basically a setup is going to encompass things like the action of the guitar, the intonation of the guitar, is there any fret buzz, is the neck straight, and all that. So some of the buzz keywords I threw out there is going to be action. So action is basically the height of the string here in relative to kind of the fretboard. So if you have a lower action, it's just going to be easier to press and play. And if you're a new player, you're definitely going to want to make sure your action is probably like medium, low medium, just because, yes, you got to build finger strength, but you should be able to just press on the string and pluck it, and it should be able to do a clean note. If it doesn't, I would question the setup of it. Then another thing you need to be wary of is basically fret buzz. Basically, if you would pluck a note right, you would hear like a buzzing sound because basically it's hitting one of the frets. And that's why I'd recommend just having the guitar set up for you for the first time, just because you basically want to be motivated to play. So if you have strings that are hard to press on, a lot of buzzing, a lot of stuff like that, it's going to make you not want to play. And I know that happened to me when I was in my teenage years with that cheap eBay guitar, right? It just hurt so bad to press down. And I mean, you will get calluses on your fingers and you will get some skin peeling, but that's supposed to go away once they start hardening up. But my fingers would always be peeling. And honestly, it was like 10 years after the fact when I got another electric guitar after not playing that I actually had a properly set up guitar. Like, oh, it's actually easy to press down on these strings? Crazy, isn't it? There'll be nothing more demotivating than having a guitar that is improperly set up. You just won't want to play it. It won't be fun. And it might already come set up and be great right out of the box. And that's where you would talk to the associate and be like, hey, has this been set up? Because when you do buy a guitar, used or new, you don't know how long it's been sitting up there for. If it's been sitting up there for a year, you're definitely going to want to get it set up. And some of the other things I would personally look for when I was buying one, my big test is going to be the frets and the nubs on the end. I always rub my fingers down it. You want it to be smooth because I have guitars where you have sharp edges and it will cut your hands up. So I would definitely always make sure to check that. And now you can file those off and stuff, get a file and do it. But I mean, that's not really fun. But if you are buying like a $200 guitar, honestly, that's going to be something that's probably going to be a thing. The other thing to look for is just kind of the strings, and if they're all corroded and they look gross, so you may need to throw a new set of strings on them as well. So those are kind of the big things for me that I would look for when I'm going in there personally. So now that we kind of got the guitar portion out of the way, you might feel a little more comfortable going in talking guitars, or at least figuring out what you want. Well, now the next part is, how do you actually play the guitar? How do you hear it? Well, you're probably going to need an amp. So I have this amp here. It's just a little Line 6 Spider V30, but it's about $150 used. And what it has on it, it has a ton of different settings, amp settings, right? I can go clean, dirty, and a bunch of other things in between. I can actually even go in here and set all the effects I want. So I have compression, I got modulation, I got delay, I got reverb, I got all that on this guy. So I can actually play crazy music on here. I can play metal sounding music. I can play pop music. I can play country music. Because again, like I said in the beginning, a lot of your sound is going to come right here, not necessarily the guitar itself. So this is great. It even has a headphone jack. So if you're in a place where you got a lot of people, you got roommates, you can just plug this in right here. It's fantastic. And it's going to give you everything that you need. And I wish I would have had this thing when I was in my teenage years. I had a crate amp that literally had no settings of anything. No reverb, no delay, no nothing. It basically just sounded clean on every setting that I did. And I actually had people go, "Hey dude, why don't you play more chugging music and more hardcore rock music?" My amp didn't allow me to. True story. So the next thing you look at getting is like an effects processor board. I got like a Helix LT here. Now this is going to be probably for, if you're intending to play live and stuff like that. But again, it has a headphone jack. You can hook it up to your computer. I can actually play this through that amp. And it has, 30 or 40 different amps, hundreds of pedals, reverb, chorus, delay effects. You can program each of these here, right? So you could actually play live on stage and play different songs and different sounds. Really awesome. And then another thing you look at getting are going to be these audio interfaces that go direct into your computer. You'll use this especially when you're trying to record music. And a lot of times these will have software that comes with it. They'll have a bunch of like amps and pedals and stuff in it too. So then you don't actually have to go out and buy pedals. As you notice, I didn't say anything about pedals because essentially this processor board I was just talking about emulates all my pedals that I need. I actually sold all my pedals to get this. It's just more convenient, less space taken up. And again, you can play it through an amp, a PA system, really easy. But back to the audio interface. So yeah, you basically plug everything into this and then it would pop up in the whatever recording software that you use. And you can basically add your guitar in it. And then usually you'll have your guitar up there and then you can add the effects to it. So this is really cool too if you're looking to record music or, just general playing, like if you don't want to buy an amp, right? You just buy the audio interface, you can kind of do all the things. And usually the software, there'll be a ton of effects packs that you can just buy online too and integrate into the software. Like this Helix model actually has a Helix plugin. I get all of this, all of the pedals, all the amps that I can actually just put in the software. So I don't have to lug this around everywhere. But the best part is I can actually create settings in the Helix pack. And then I can actually export it and import it into here. So when I do record a song, I can bring it right in here if I want to go take it out and play it live. So that is why these things are freaking awesome. I really can't recommend these enough. And it'll cost less than like 5 or 6 good pedals. So again, I'd recommend having about $200 to $400 if you can. I'd probably just stick to some of the name brands until you're more familiar and you want to venture out. So again, a lot of people might disagree here, but I'd still kind of stick to like the Fender Squier, the Gibson Epiphone, Ibanez, just to kind of start out. Usually they're lower entry points, and they give you all the different pickup configurations that you're going to need to play probably any style of music that you want. So again, just make sure you know the style you're looking to get. Go into the store and play it if you can. 3, get your guitar set up. And those are going to be the big 3 to help you along your journey. So again, hopefully that was helpful. If you like this video, go ahead and give me a thumbs up. If you aren't subscribed, go ahead and subscribe. And then go ahead and check out the description and check me out on major streaming platforms. I'm trying to release some music. It's a work in progress, but I think I'm doing all right. Anyways, thanks for watching. See you next time.